So when I got the genetic testing news and found out I have this gene, first thing I did was I went online and did a bit of research and found out there's an organization called Force that pairs people with, when they find out they have certain genes, to other people that find out they have it. And one of the women I talked to was a woman that found out she had this gene and she had had breast cancer. And so I got to talk to her about all of her journey and how she found out and when she did. And interesting thing, she had been tested, or she found out she had breast cancer, 10 years before, started her journey somewhere in 2014 or 15. She got genetic testing. They tested for that gene and had it, but they didn't do that before, so she never knew. So that's interesting and another resource. So when the doctor called and gave me the genetic test results, that sent me back to all my doctors I could ask them, their opinion now with this additional information, what did they think I should do about that? And without exception, they all recommended the more aggressive treatment plan, which surprised me, it disappointed me. But, when you've got all your doctors recommending the same thing, it's a little bit hard to think about I'm going to be that person that's going to go against that. So I was on my back porch one morning and having some coffee and thinking through, and my Grace Hill family and my friends had really circled around me and helping me think through it and talk through it and pray through it. And I was on my back porch and I called my daughter and we were talking a little bit about it, and I said, I'm really struggling. I have to make this decision. The doctor's called. And she said, well, I'm 24. What would you tell me to do? And I said, I'd tell you to do this. You got the rest of your life ahead of you. And then she said, what will make you live the longest? And I said, well, probably this, the more aggressive approach. And she said, then that's what I think you should do. And at that point, I decided that was more important, and being around for as long as I could be. And so that was the path I took. So at that point, when I chose my treatment plan, at that point you make the decision, and then you sort of go on down this road where you know this, and you go into surgery, and then they do all this testing to figure out, has it gone into your lymph nodes and the rest of your body? These are microscopic cells that, you don't know. So they take a sampling, of your lymph nodes. And I am grateful, blessed, and lucky that there was no detection of those in my lymph nodes. And so therefore, I didn't have to do chemo or any radiation. And so I feel super lucky to have, had those results, and very blessed of this prognosis. And, it looks great for me going forward. So I balanced the knowledge of my breast cancer journey and the start of that with work, through basically a network of friends and work colleagues. I would love to say that, I am woman, hear me roar. And there was a little part of that you have to kind of embrace and get through it because you're the only one that can. But there's a whole lot of it that you have to rely on your work colleagues and your friends to just help keep you thinking through it, and obviously your family. My husband was terrific through this. My kids were super supportive, and we sort of chose to look at this as an inconvenience, annoying thing that was happening during the pandemic. But through the reliance on my friends and people willing to talk and willing to give me advice and willing to pick up some slack when I needed it, that was how I was able to balance that. In some ways, work was really a very nice distraction because it made me not sit around and think about all the what ifs. And, with anyone that's diagnosed with anything that's scary, you think about all those what ifs, what if, and what if this, what if that, what if, and you don't know. None of us know. But I sort of went through that, allowed myself to think through some of those things, and then sort of made a decision that I wasn't going to dwell there anymore. And I was going to distract myself with work, and luckily work was really busy, and it was we were able to I was able to be distracted, but I chose to think of that and chose to think in that way. And, that was the only way I knew to cope.